Well, 25 years ago, Mauritania left ECOWAS and went on a solo expedition. And since then, Mauritania has been increasing its GDP as well as has ward off other threats that were facing the country from the size of the borders. Right now, over the weekend, we had three countries, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, doing the same thing that we can say Mauritania did, but with a different reason. The three countries have formed the alliance of the Sahel States to try and counter the Western influence in West Africa. Well, the question that begs in this session is, will the alliance of Sahel States be as successful as what Mauritania did in West Africa? Well, if we start to discuss about this, we have to go back and understand why these countries have made this decision. One, it is because of the coups that have taken place in these countries. And basically, when you go back to analyze this, you'll find that there is a Russian influence in West Africa. And this Russian influence has tried for a very long time to push away the Western influence, that is France and the United States. These countries underwent coups, and they're led by military juntas who have aligned their philosophies, their policies to Russia. We've seen them attending different Russian summits, and they are well versed with how Russia works and want to implement that kind of leadership in their countries. Well, we can say that this is an honest way of looking at things because, one, we understand that France has been taking a lot of wealth from these countries, and that is a valid argument. Two, we understand also that Russia has provided the military, has provided the weapons that they need to fight these insurgencies in their countries. But we have to be honest as well and say that we cannot solve all problems that the citizens in these three countries are facing through regurgitating and just talking about events that happened in the Cold War, because they are trying to pit the East against the West and regurgitating basically that Russia is providing this kind of a philosophy, the West is providing this kind of a philosophy, and this has proven not to work for quite some time, even when you discuss about different African countries, as well as there is a pertinent issue about access to the sea. These three countries are landlocked. They don't have access to the sea. That means that they need to have a dialogue with countries that are bordering the sea and with shorter distances to them so that they can be able to access goods and also produce goods in their countries and take them to the sea for export or import. And that is a very important matter that brings about what we have to discuss second, to be ECOWAS. ECOWAS as a bloc has tried for quite some time to try and bring these three countries back into its alliance and retain the initial borders of ECOWAS. The economic community of West African states is one that has a lot of countries and also tries as much as possible to defend other countries against insurgencies from Boko Haram to all the militia that are affecting these countries. But with the policies and the direction that these three countries have taken, ECOWAS has come out time and time again to try and condemn the coups and try and prevent other countries from also going through the coups. But the problem is ECOWAS has been very, very brutal in the ways that they've been handling these countries that has forced them to what they are doing right now. ECOWAS has imposed economic sanctions. They have imposed policies against these countries that have sort of crippled them, and now they don't have a result of anything else other than going forward and making sure that they defend themselves. Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger have vowed that they will defend each other, and if push comes to shove, if one country is attacked, by any member of ECOWAS or by the ECOWAS contingent, they will try as much as possible to put their forces together to defend that country. So that is a matter that ECOWAS has to be really, really concerned if they are looking at bringing these countries back into the community. Therefore, it means that ECOWAS has to change strategy. ECOWAS has been very harsh to these countries, and they have to change their strategy to be very lenient, to have dialogue and make sure that they bring them back to the community. Another thing that we have to also to discuss here is that the fact that ECOWAS doesn't have a unanimous decision on this matter. And this has made this matter to prolong for a very long time, because there seems to be no one decision to counter this coups and basically the secession of these countries or pulling out from ECOWAS. Of course, if they allow this to happen, other countries that see themselves to be not favorable to others will try as much as possible also to join this alliance, and basically they will just follow the philosophy that they are following and will go to Russia. Of course, this is something that ECOWAS states do not want. The treatment of dissent of these countries has to change by ECOWAS bringing back these countries to at least participate in one way or another in decision making or even in their general assemblies, so that they can try to convince them to come back in the community. One last thing that we have to discuss in this as we end is Russia. Russia is the main player, is at the center of everything that is happening in West Africa and the coups that are happening there. Russia has brought an influence that has made these three countries to basically flip from west to east. The one thing about Russia is that it doesn't punish corruption. And if the country doesn't punish corruption, then it begs the question, will there be development in these countries, if at all? People will be able to access monies from the foreign countries and promise to pay through the population, but they will not have checks and balances necessary to make sure that these monies are well accounted for. That is a matter to discuss, because we need to have these checks and balances so that we can be able to appropriate this money as well and make sure that they are spent well. So that is a matter that has also to come into play when we are talking about Russian support. We know that Russia has sent contingents there. Wagner has been very active in aiding these countries to fight off radical groups. But then again, what is the cost of having Wagner? What is the cost of having Russian military armory and security there to fight these insurgencies? What is the role of Russia in these countries in terms of minerals, in terms of raw materials that are getting from out of these countries? What do they have to pay in return for them to have these services? Have they emancipated themselves from the kind of deals that they had with France, or are we changing one master to the other? This is Bonafide.